Hey there, Pod Pals. Do you feel like you could use a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or with converting your podcast listeners into becoming your best clients? I want you to head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and watch the 4-minute video that talks about who I help and exactly how I can help them out. Next, I want you to click on the Discovery Call button to set up a free podcast profit potential discovery call where we can talk about working together to help you reach your podcasting and online business goals. Head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for your free podcast profit potential discovery call. What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. If you're a coach, consultant, or service provider that's looking to learn how to leverage your podcast to get more clients and build your online business, you're in the right spot. This is part 2 of our 2024 wins and Q&A episode. If you missed part 1, check out the previous episode. We started this tradition last year, and this year we had so many responses I had to break it up into part 1 and part 2. Happy 2025, y'all. This is the first episode of 2025, and hopefully your year is kicking off with a lot of momentum. And yeah, so I've got 6 more audio submissions from Podcasting Business School listeners that submitted their win of the year for 2024 and a question for me to answer. All right, without any further delay, let's dive into part 2 with our very first question from Lori Ann.
Hi, this is Lori Ann Mirabito from the Be in Demand podcast. My big 2024 win was I was able to 4x my downloads and also add a second episode once I hit episode 200. So those are my 2 big wins. And here's my question for you, Adam, is I've had some great success this year, and I'm looking for some unique ways to really publicize my podcast in other ways besides just, hey, here's a little bit of social media on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and thank you very much for your assistance this year.
All right, Lori Ann, congrats on your win. Lori Ann and I have been working together for most of the year inside the Download Growth Club. Her growth has exploded, and I'm super proud of that. So congrats on that win. Let's talk about growing our show, promoting our content. To me, it always comes down to the 3 buckets. So we got the organic discoverability, which we've got dialed in for Lori, and that's why she's seeing 4x growth in 2024. Then we've got the paid marketing, which I know she's taking advantage of as well with like Overcast ads and things like that. And then we've got effort-based marketing. And this is where things can get interesting, where we can try different types of effort-based content. Obviously, putting up the social media posts and things like that, that's what we're all doing, right? But I think looking at things like leveraging a newsletter and doing what I do, where it's like, all right, my newsletter is now my main lead magnet. Therefore, I have to provide something different within the newsletter. So what if, Lori Ann's podcast on the topic of public speaking, getting booked for stages, things like that. So what if you had like a question and answer submission type of content, like what I'm doing here, but all the questions get answered inside of your newsletter. So we're leveraging your episode. Maybe you play the audio on an episode and go, hey, if you want to hear the answer, hit the link in my show notes and get signed up for my newsletter, and I'll answer it in the newsletter. So something like that I think would be pretty cool. I think for you live streaming, because you are speaking about speaking on stages. I know we both view social media and live streaming and podcasting as a stage as well. So I think a regular live streaming cadence would make a lot of sense. Maybe I think it would be unique where you have a show, maybe a live stream show, maybe it's a podcast where you invite people that have speaking events on different topics, and you have people pitch and they go, hey, I would like to throw my hat in the ring. I want to come on the show. I want to submit an application to come on the show to pitch to the people that have these business events or something like that. And it's almost like The Voice where they have the chair turn and all that stuff. And I want you to come and speak on my stage, or let's have a conversation, or like Shark Tank sort of a thing. So maybe there's something like that. I think there's some unique content that you could be cooking up. And obviously I want you guesting on a lot of podcasts. I think you really bring a unique element. Lori Ann's episode on the show aired a few weeks back. It's really, really good. I recommend everybody listening here to check it out. But I want Lori Ann guesting on 1 to 4 podcasts every single month. 4 is going to be kind of a high-end goal. One would be a minimum. So we're going to be, 12 to 50 podcasts this year. That would be a great goal. All right, Lori Ann, I will continue to cheer you on. Let's take our next question.
This is Lynn Aliquity Smargis. My podcast that I will be sharing today is Caring for Your Aging Parents. My podcasting win of 2024 is that I received 13 phone calls off of 25 episodes of my podcast. So I only had season 1 out and started season 2 when I hit call number 13. So these were all potential leads, and one of the leads did turn into a client, and that client made enough money for me that paid for 2x of my podcast production for the entire season. So that was a huge win for me. And my question is, I am now selling that podcast. And what would you recommend for somebody that is selling a podcast that has less than 10,000 downloads, but a lot of listener response and engagement? So what would your tips be for selling the podcast? Thanks so much for everything you do, Adam. You are fabulous. I love your podcast, and I love your Pod Pals party. And I hope you have an amazing 2025.
All right, Lynn, great win of the year. We love seeing a little ROI. We're getting some engagement. We're making some money. We're getting leads. And now you're ready to sell the show. I'm curious about why you wanted to sell it. First off, if things are kind of going this well, maybe you're pivoting with your business, things like that. So that's what I'm going to assume. I sold a health show back in 2021. And things that you want to look at, like I was a little bit different. That show had almost 600,000 downloads at that time. So I did have the download backing. If you guys want to build an asset that is sellable as a podcast, you also need to consider, again, I'll say it again, email list, social media channel. Like I was able to package up and go, all right, I've got 550 something thousand downloads. I've got 400 plus episodes. I've got an email list of 10,000. I've got an IG of 12,000. That's an asset. That's a sellable asset. We've got, clients and customers and memberships and all that stuff. So what I would look at, Lynn, is the ROI that you're getting and going, okay, I've got this amount of downloads per episode, but I've set up a funnel that is producing X amount of dollars every time that I talk about it. So I would focus on that. And honestly, if you really wanted to sell it, I feel like I've heard this business advice before, and I think it's really wise. Like when you start thinking about selling it, that's not the year to sell it. The year to sell it is 2 to 3 years down the road. So I forget where I heard that, but it made so much sense. Like when I had my brick and mortar gym, I was just stupidly thinking that it would just be great forever. And it would just always be going up and always be getting more clients and it would always be easy and lucrative and fun until it wasn't. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get out of this. And then that's too late. So let's say that you're willing to put another year or 2, maybe 18 months, 24 months, 36 months into this thing and go, all right, I do want to sell this. So let's build something that's sellable. And we go, all right, I got to build the email list. Let's get a lead magnet going. I want to continue to document this funnel and fine tune it so that it's cookie cutter and anybody can step in and do what I'm doing. I'm going to build my social media. It doesn't have to be giant. You're operating in a smaller niche, but get listeners that are very specific, social media followers that are very specific, and then email list subscribers that are very specific within your niche. And you're going to start to say, hey, I'm converting X amount of people into clients, and this dollar generation is happening. That is a sellable asset. So I think you could try to sell it now, but I feel like let's look 18 months down the road and put in work. And I think that you could sell this thing at the top of its momentum cycle as a business and do really well with it. So that is what I'd recommend for you, Miss Lynn, and I hope that you have a great 2025. All right, let's move to the next question.
This is Monica Tanner from the Secrets of Happily Ever After podcast. My podcasting win of 2024 was restarting my podcast after a 6-month break and getting 1,000 downloads in the first couple hours that my first episode was released. I am so excited. Here's my question for Adam. Adam, what topics do you wish somebody would talk about that you have questions about, but you feel like nobody talks about? That's what I want to talk about on my podcast. So I am excited to hear your answer.
Monica, congrats on your win. Isn't it nice to come back from a break and just get giant downloads? That's how it's supposed to work. We worked a little bit on your rebrand and kind of retargeting a few keywords and things like that. It seems like that is off and running. So well done indeed. So about your show, obviously Secrets of Happily Ever After, talking about marriage, relationships, all that stuff. I think it would be interesting to talk about couples where one person is the entrepreneur and one person has a traditional 9-to-5. I feel like that is a unique dynamic that isn't discussed enough. And there are some interesting nooks and crannies of that dynamic that you could kind of dive into a little bit and go, okay, how do we see each other? How do we understand each other at the same level? Things like that. So that's one thing I would love to see you dive into your show. Monica's got a great show. I listened to it, and so I would love to hear that dynamic discussed on your podcast. All right, let's move to the next question.
This is Scott Carson from the Note Closer Show podcast, and my biggest podcasting win in 2024 is the 900 episode mark and surpassed over 1 million downloads just with the Note Closer Show podcast. So 2 big things that were exciting. Plus, we've got the #1 YouTube channel as well in our niche of real estate investing. But my big question for you is, where are you going to focus in 2025? What niche of marketing besides podcasting are you going to use to help you grow your show? Is it LinkedIn? Is it going to be more email blasts? What's the biggest niche that you're going to focus on to help you accelerate your growth that you would recommend with your podcast business school? Thanks again. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, buddy. Thanks for all that you do.
Scott Carson, y'all. Scott, congrats on hitting those mega numbers. And I just want to take a second to shout out Scott. Scott is one of the top entrepreneurs in podcasting that you've probably never heard of because you aren't in his niche of note closing in the real estate space. If you are in the real estate space or real estate investing space, check out the Note Closers podcast. Scott Carson is excellent. So congrats on your win, Scott. Let's talk about what I'm going to focus on in 2025. I'm all about simplification, and I'm going to beat the drum of simplifying because I feel like I mentioned this in the previous episode with some other wins and questions that we addressed, but I feel like there's a lot of pressure right now around video. If you aren't on video, you're missing out. If you aren't, don't have a giant YouTube push, you're missing out. If you're not doing TikTok videos pushing out, you're missing out. And I feel like it can be done without that. I'm doing it without that. And I have people that are really telling me I'm missing out and FOMOing me, and I'll try things out. But my main focus is simplifying, and my big 3 focus points are podcast growth, email list growth, and Threads app. And I love the Threads app because I can knock out a Threads post in 10 seconds. I don't have to sit and dance in front of a camera. I don't have to record anything. I don't have to edit anything. It's simple. It's ELF, easy, lucrative, fun. And I'm getting clients from it. I'm getting new listeners from it. Shout out to anybody that found me on Threads. So there's more and more and more of you every single episode. So those are my 3 focus points. I just want to lead by example. And am I missing out by not optimizing on YouTube? Sure. Like, there's opportunity there. And there's a lot of podcasters doing that. But I also think a lot of podcasters are going to burn out because it's already happening. You launch, oh my God, this is way more work than I thought it was. Not the ROI that I thought it was going to be. Not making money, not getting listeners. I'm out. I can't edit videos for 6 hours. I can't spend an hour making a TikTok video or an Instagram reel. I hear that a lot. I get so many people telling me that they just are sick and tired of social media. They're burned out on being on their phone all the freaking time. I'm like, what if there was a different way? And in 2025, I really want to be a shining example of a different way to do this. It's simple. We do audio. We do written stuff. Yeah, I'll go live. I'll go face to camera and create some Instagram stories and communicate. But I'm not going to spend hours making videos or editing videos this year. And that's one of my goals. So a little bit against the grain, a little bit against what the norm is, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. All right, let's go to the next question.
This is Yari Caro from the Hardcore Soft Skills podcast. My podcasting win of 2024 was getting to the 100th episode. That was amazing. And also continuing with listeners from over 60 countries. But here's my question for Adam, which is, I want to know, when do I know it's time to pivot a little bit? Because I've been doing a lot of interviews and I want to position myself more as the expert speaker, but I'm afraid to lose listeners because of that. So how do we shift the podcast approach from an interviewer to an expert? Thank you so much.
Yadi, congrats on your podcasting win. I'm so glad you're celebrating that episode benchmark success. That is awesome. And I applaud you for sticking with it and just keeping going to 100 episodes and beyond. Well done. Now, you're speaking my language, Yadi, and you know this. Kind of doing more expert positioning within our audio, fewer interviews, more solos. That is the recipe. I talk about on my show here, the 2/3 content rule. I eventually like to see service providers especially have 2/3 of their content, feature them as the expert, and then we still have that 1/3 for strategically done interviews. All right. Now, the fear that you have is the same fear that everybody has, that they go, I've been only or primarily doing interviews. I want to start doing solos, but I'm nervous that it's going to scare everybody off. I've never had somebody have that happen. So that's the good news. But everybody is nervous about this, changing the content. Oh my gosh. I guarantee, if it makes you feel better, Yadi, you could kind of mention to your audience on a few episodes, hey, news blast, news alert, news flash. I'm going to start dropping some solo episodes. I'm very excited. I'm going to be talking on the topic of X, Y, and Z. It's going to start at episode number 112 or whatever, or the new year, or whatever you think. And start dropping some hints and then drop an episode. And I guarantee, Yadi, you're going to get more positive feedback. People are going, I love this. They're showing up for you. Like, they like, you're 100 episodes deep in this thing. They like hearing what you have to say. So let's give them more of that. All right. And you will see a positive response. And then let's start to up the cadence of the solos. And what you're going to find, solos are super easy. It's 15 minutes, 20 minutes instead of an hour plus or a 45-minute interview. Most interviews are at least 30 minutes. You can record 2 solos in that time. Most interviews are in that 45 to 60 minutes. That's 2, 3, 4 solo episodes. Most podcasters are struggling to get out weekly content because of the time involved. So if we start shifting that hour block that it does to do an interview into, I can record 2, 3, 4 solo episodes and be ahead. 2025 is the year where I'm going to help more podcasters go from week to week scrambling to get an episode out, taking quote unquote breaks, quitting, coming back. I want 2025 to be the year that we stop doing all that mess. We get efficient and we start cranking out solo episode content and interviews, but we're ahead. We're ahead of schedule. There's a buffer. You can take several weeks off. I get hammered on Threads. People blast me and I do it on purpose because it's great engagement. The negative stuff is just as good for the algorithm as the positive stuff. I go, I've not missed a week. This is the post, y'all. This is my fire starter post on Threads. I have not missed a week of putting out content since 2015. Or 9 years in a row, I've put out a weekly episode and I've never, ever missed. And people are like, how do you not burn out? Oh, I can't do that. That's a recipe for burnout. I hear all this burnout. But what they don't understand is I'm 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead. So I can take a break whenever the hell I want to take a break. Let that soak in. All these burnout commenters. Those people are the ones that are scrambling to get an episode out on Tuesday and it's Monday night at midnight. That's how you burn out. All right. Taking a break and then not coming back. That's how you quit as a podcaster. I can take a break whenever I want. I always make sure that I have batch recorded my solo episodes, make it easy, and I can take a break. All right. So, example, this episode is the first episode of the new year. Guess when I'm recording it? December 17th. I'm ahead. Guess when I'm not working? The next 2 weeks. All right. This is the recipe. What's the Mandalorian? This is the way. This is the way. This is how we escape burnout, by being strategic and smart with our content. And I know, Yadi, I leveraged, I springboarded into what I wanted to talk about, get on my soapbox here from your comment there. But let's bring it back home. More solos, your audience will freaking love it. And you're going to be more efficient with your time, and you can get ahead. And maybe you're ahead by 2 weeks and you go, you know what else I need to do? I need to build a lead magnet. So I'm going to take that 2 week buffer. I'm going to take one of those weeks and I'm not going to record an episode. I'm going to build my lead magnet instead, or my offer, or my new online course, or whatever. Or maybe you're just going to go on vacation and chill. All good. All right. So I feel like solo episodes are a key to all of this. And in 2025, I'm going to be talking a lot more about being more efficient, avoiding burnout, and being more strategic with how we use our time as podcasters. So that's the last one. I had a couple other ones that got submitted, but the audio was super weird and hard to understand. So I'm going to take those and I will use those in my newsletter or social media in written format. So everybody that submitted questions, I will definitely, they'll be popping up. If not in this audio, they'll be popping up in my newsletter. I've got a new segment where I'm doing the podcasting question of the week. I'll reuse these and answer that within my newsletter on Thursdays. And I will be posting those on Threads as well, answering those on Threads. All right, Pod Pals, happy 2025. Welcome to the new year. This is the year. You have to get that in your mindset. Like, this is the year that things are going to be different for you as a podcaster. And we also have to get inside your mind and go, okay, the only person that can make that a reality is you. You can plug in to influencers and experts like myself or the dozens of other people out in the podcast coaching space. But the person that has to decide to make it happen is you. And, people ask me, have you ever thought about quitting? And I'm honest. I say, yeah, like every day for the first 3 years. It was brutal. Especially that first year. I even did an episode where I said I was thinking about quitting. It was like episode 37 of my first show, my health show back in 2015. And yeah, every day. This is really hard. You can't go viral as a podcaster. It's not like a TikTok video. You do a dance and it's funny and then boom, it goes crazy. That doesn't happen in podcasting. So quit expecting that to happen. What you need to expect is that you put your head down, you get to work, you put out content weekly, ideally. You get ahead, you get a buffer going. If you're a service provider, you create expert positioning. You do coaching style episodes. You get 25 coaching style episodes out there. Maybe you start to see a return on investment. People start converting over, buying your course, buying your book, booking you as a speaker, hiring you as a consultant. But it's going to take work. This might be the hardest thing that you ever do. It was for me. I always tell people, I went on a health journey back in the day. I used to weigh over 300 pounds. I lost over 100 pounds. And that and podcasting are like neck and neck for the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. Losing 100 pounds and being successful as a podcaster are pretty close in difficulty level. So you have to go in expecting that. This is not going to be easy, but if your why, aka your motivation, is greater than or equal to the sum of all the why nots, and all the why nots will happen all at once, you're going to get busy, You're going to get sick. You're not going to get a client. You're going to have a negative rating and review. Your Instagram accounts can get frozen. Your downloads are going to dip. Like all that stuff is going to happen all at once. Is the why bigger than all that? And if it is, you'll keep going, and eventually you're going to succeed. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to repivot. You're going to have to tweak. You might, like I did, I sold my show. I built it up to over 500,000 downloads, had a lot of business success, and I fell out of love with the topic of health podcasting. I said everything I could possibly say and that I ever wanted to say, and I was done. That's scary. And I started over and created this brand from scratch. How scary is that? Let's just talk about that for a second. I built Million Pound Mission podcast, a health and weight loss show, from scratch to 550,000 downloads, 400 episodes, a 12,000 person Instagram account, and a 10,000 plus person email list. And I fell out of love with it and I quit it. I had to give it up. I was done with that. And I started from freaking scratch, knowing how hard that was. That show was paying the bills. And knowing how hard that was, I sold it and I started from scratch with this brand. And now I've done the same thing with this brand. All right. I don't have the social media or the email list growth there yet, but we're going. We're getting there. But the download growth is equal or the same, and the financial growth is way better. All right, so that was the right move to make. So just kind of keep that in mind, and I will be here to cheer you along every step of the way. We're going to celebrate all your wins of 2025 at the end of this year. So just go out. Let's go out and win hunt a little bit in 2025. We're going win hunting, y'all, and I can't wait to see what you do. I can't wait to see what I do. This is going to be a big year for me and for Podcasting Business School and the entire ecosystem that surrounds that. So I appreciate you. Here is to all of our success in 2025. To everybody that submitted a win and a question, I appreciate you. For everybody that's ever listened to a show, I just sincerely appreciate you because you are what allows me to keep this podcasting dream alive. All right? Pod Pals, we are good for 2024. Let's jump into 2025. I cannot wait to see you on a fresh episode on Tuesday. And until then, I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time. If you need a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or monetization strategy, head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for a free podcast profit potential discovery call. During this free 20-minute discovery call session, I'm going to analyze your podcasting brand and tell you where I think you're missing on an opportunity for profits. Next, I'm going to tell you exactly what I suggest that you do as your next step. If I've got an offer that would help you accelerate the process, we can discuss working together as well. So head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and click on the Discovery Call button to schedule your free Podcast Profit Potential Discovery Call.